Welcome, everybody. Let's start today talking a little bit about China and really just some of the economic realities and asymmetries that are governing a lot of what we are seeing right now in this kind of alpha jockeying types of attempts to push other countries to do what this administration wants. Remember when Trump told us that China was begging for a trade deal? We were told that they're calling and they're texting and they're sending telegrams and they're lighting smoke signals in the sky to get back to the negotiating table. They're desperate to make a deal, we were told. They're crying, strong Chinese men sobbing like kids. They're going to cave any day now, a bunch of Trump's allies were swearing to us. And we've now learned that this really isn't true. Check out this clip from Scott Bessent, and then we'll talk about it.
You're heavily involved here. You have said they need to de-escalate and start that process for us to get going on trade talks. Have they made any effort at this point?
I think we could see substantial progress in the coming weeks. We'll see. That I think it's Stein's law, that which is not sustainable doesn't continue. So 145%, 125% tariff levels are the equivalent of an embargo.
Yep.
And we're reading every day what's happening with factories in China. And from an academic point of view, I can tell you that the history of trade battles, we are the deficit country. The surplus country always has the most to lose.
So they need to make more gestures. What is it that you're looking for, and is that happening? Is there a negotiation about the negotiation?
Yeah, we'll see over the coming weeks, and we'll see what President Trump wants to accept.
Right. I mean, have they offered anything on the fentanyl, for instance, precursor ingredients?
Only what they have said publicly. So, and I can tell you.
So not a phone call, not a meeting, not a, hey, we've got a new phone, who's this? None of it, right? This is the sort of global economic equivalent of ghosting. And Donald Trump, the self-proclaimed, master negotiator, is standing there holding a dead phone. There's nobody on the other end, and he's screaming into the void about 10% blanket tariffs, 154% blanket tariffs, 254% blanket tariffs, which are supposedly going to be so damaging to China that they're going to come running and crawling all at the same time back to us. Except the problem is that when you talk to actual economists, you realize that because of the economic asymmetries in terms of how the American economy is set up versus the Chinese economy, this is going to hurt American consumers and American businesses way more than it's going to hurt anyone in China directly. So we're going to get back to the directly part of it. But the point here is that this really isn't deal making, it's a delusion. And the entire Trump trade strategy is really built on the fantasy that China needs us more than we need them, and therefore they are going to blink first, and the tariffs are going to be some magical lever that will fix everything and bring a new golden era of prosperity to the United States. Now, intuitively, I know most of you know that that's not true, but we're seeing it now. We now have over a month of this, and China simply isn't playing the same game that Donald Trump is playing. If you are China, and by the way, I think it goes without saying that I want the US to do well economically. I don't like any of this. When I tell you now the things that China is doing that set them up to better weather this storm than the United States, these are just facts. I wish it were different. I'm not gloating or happy about this. China is watching the United States sabotage itself with these inflationary tariffs and the declining investor confidence and the chaotic administration that didn't even get a return call because Trump wanted to play chicken and China sort of like parked the car and walked away while Trump is still driving on the highway towards what he thinks is China. And it's really driving Donald Trump nuts. China is they're in a much stronger position than the United States right now. And Trump and his base don't want to admit this because it would really go against the framework that they believe to be true. Number one, China has long prepared for exactly this kind of economic standoff that Donald Trump is now pushing. And what China has done that makes them more robust and resilient In this situation, it's not a perfect economy by any means, but in this situation, with regard to trade with the United States, China has diversified trading partners in a number of industries. They've invested in Belt and Road infrastructure. They've ramped up domestic production and consumption to be less reliant on exports from the United States. So when Trump rolls out these blanket tariffs, thinking that he has the cards. Remember, he told Zelensky, you don't have the cards. Trump believes he has the cards with regard to China, but China can afford to wait it out because they can take the pain for longer. It's just a reality. You know, Trump says, well, there's going to be some short-term pain here, but it's going to be long-term gain. The American public does not seem willing or able, to a great degree, to tolerate the pain nearly as long as China is able to tolerate it. And China's system doesn't hinge on short-term public approval. This is one of the benefits of a pseudo-authoritarian regime. I hate pseudo-authoritarian regimes. I'm not an authoritarian, but one of the realities is that when that is the way your country is organized, their leadership isn't up for re-election every 4 years. It's a different scenario. Trump has a sort of calendar to beat, and China does not. Now, meanwhile, you look at the American economy, far more exposed. American companies rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing, on Chinese rare earth minerals, supply chains that we can't just onshore overnight. And so the blanket tariff isn't just or really a tax on China. It's a tax on American consumers and businesses, where prices will go up and manufacturing, to the extent that it still exists here, is going to slow, and voters are going to get angry. And so this is why, when we go back to 2024 or even 2023, when Trump started kind of waxing poetic about these tariffs, libertarian economists, liberal economists, centrist economists, progressive economists, not for the exact same reasons in every case, but they all were warning the US is not positioned. We don't have the cards to win this trade war. By the way, the trade war will hurt everybody, but there's an asymmetry where it's going to hurt the United States more. China knows it. And no matter what Trump posts to Truth Central, that doesn't trick China into believing things about the American economy that aren't true. And so they are sitting aside, and they're watching the United States tie itself into economic knots. And from their perspective, it's really an incredible opportunity to rise in terms of global superpower economic dominance. So not only is this not good at the micro level on the short term for the American consumer and business, this actually potentially is going to let other countries realize, including China, hey, we have way more cards to play than we thought, and the United States may actually have fewer cards to play. So this is a much worse situation than is even reflected in the up and downs of the stock market or whatever numbers you want to look at. And Trump is sitting around waiting for a phone call that simply isn't coming. She's already found a different date to the prom, is the analogy that I would apply. Your mom wants you to call her, and this Mother's Day, give her a call. But you can also consider giving her an Aura digital picture frame. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter. I've gifted these to so many folks, including my mom, no matter where I am. If we're traveling, if my daughter does something absolutely brilliant on the playground, which happens all the time, I can take a picture or a video and upload it directly into my mom's Aura frame or whoever's. I can also share access. I shared it with my brother so he can upload pictures directly as well. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. My audience can save for a limited time on the perfect gift by going to auraframes.com and getting $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver matte frame. Go to auraframes.com. Use the code PACMAN. The link is in the description.